The starting system is designed to change the electrical energy, which is stored in the battery, into mechanical energy. The conversion is being initiated by a starter or cranking motor and its other components. There are 7 components of the starting system, namely the battery, the starter circuit, the ignition switch, the starter safety switch, the control circuits, the solenoid, and the starter motor. The battery, also known as lead-acid storage battery, it is an electrochemical device that produces voltage and delivers current. It serves as an electrical reservoir that supplies power to the entire system. Next is the starter circuit. This circuit allows a small amount of electrical current to control a large amount of current. An automobile starter uses a large amount of current for about 250 amperes to start an engine. If we were to allow that much current to go through the ignition switch, all the wires would have to be the size of battery cables. The circuit, as we can see, is installed in series between the battery and the starter. Another component is the ignition switch. It allows the driver to distribute electrical current to where it is needed. There are generally 5 key switch positions that are used. First is the lock, where all circuits are open and the steering wheel is in lock position. Second is off, where all circuits are open but the steering wheel can be turned and the key cannot be extracted. Third is the run, where all circuits except the starter circuit are closed. Fourth is the start, where power is then supplied to the ignition circuit and the starter motor only. This position is used momentarily just to activate the starter. Fifth and last position is the accessory, where power is supplied to all except the ignition and the starter circuit. The ignition switch is installed between the battery and the solenoid to turn the power on and off. For safety reasons, the starter motor can only be operated when the automatic transmission is in park or neutral position. In a car with a manual transmission, the engine can only be started when the clutch pedal switch completes the starter motor circuit when pressed. In cars with an automatic transmission, the transmission range switch allows the starter to operate only when a transmission is in park or neutral. This switch is normally connected to the transmission linkage or directly on the transmission. An electromagnet which requires small current to get energized is called the solenoid. As the ignition switch is turned on, the power of the battery is then supplied to the solenoid and gets energized. The solenoid works as a powerful electric relay. When activated, through the control terminal, the solenoid closes the high current electric circuit and sends the battery power to the starter motor. However, these dashed lines represent the control circuit. It is connected from the battery down to the starter solenoid. This circuit is responsible for allowing or interrupting the flow of current to the motor. The system cannot perform its job without a powerful electric motor with a small gear or pinion attached to the end. It is called the starter motor. The motor turns over or cranks the engine to start. It requires a very high electric current to turn over the engine. When activated, the gear has meshed with a larger gear ring, which is attached to the engine. The starter motor then spins the engine over so that the piston can draw in a fuel and air mixture, which is then ignited to start the engine. How do starting system works? When you turn the ignition key to the start position or press the start button, if the transmission is in park or neutral, the battery voltage goes through the starter control circuit and activates the starter solenoid. The starter solenoid powers the starter motor. At the same time, the starter solenoid pushes the starter gear forward to mesh it with the engine flywheel. The flywheel is attached to the engine crankshaft. The starter motor spins, turning over the engine crankshaft, allowing the engine to start. In cars with a push-button start, the system disengages the starter as soon as the engine starts running.